Hello, everyone. How is everyone today? My name is Stefan Kaplan, and I am a social media and visual strategist. And welcome to the Spin It Social Hour. I am a former photo editor at the New York Times, and it is a pleasure to be here with everyone. And first of all, I should always start off with is, how is everyone? How is everyone doing out there? I know this is a really tough time, and this is a very stressful time on everybody between everything that's going on with the COVID crisis and the economy. But I am here because my Spin It Social Hour is truly a labor of love born out of care and concern for my photo community. When the COVID crisis hit, I really wanted to make a difference, and I was trying to figure out how. So I decided to create my Spin It Social Hour to bring on photographers from around the world to discuss their work and their journeys and let you get to know them better and better, so that therefore when this crisis subsides and hopefully goes away, we are going to know them better, you are going to know them better, and therefore they will be able to hopefully get back on track and get more work and everything else. Because when you think about it, so many things have happened, everything's been shut down, and it's taken its toll on a lot of people in many different sectors. So, as I said, I'm a former photo editor at the New York Times, a social media and visual strategist, and I've worked with many big clients, including the Pulitzer Prizes, AARP, and other organizations. So I also work with Sri Srinivasan and his DigiMentors group. It's always a pleasure to be associated with Sri, and he is a dear colleague and a dear friend. And so today we are here to welcome Susan Portnoy, who is an amazing photographer, travels around the world, and I am just thrilled to have her here today. So I am going to quickly give you the buildup that you deserve, Susan, by putting on a quick slideshow here of your work. And with no further ado, I bring on the great travel photographer and just great all-around human being, my friend Susan Portnoy.
Hey there. Hey,
Hello,
Stefan.
Susan. What a pleasure to have you here today on the Spin It Social Hour and to be my guest and to introduce you to the world. You're already pretty well known, but I'm just thrilled to have you here. So thank you. Thank you so much.
I truly appreciate the opportunity, and you know, the guests that you've had on prior are amazing, and I know you've got some fantastic photographers after this. So thanks for putting me in that lineup.
No, it's my pleasure. It really is. I mean, we met some time ago through social media, which was great because we met in person at Social Media Weekend, which is the big event that goes on through Sri. And it's just amazing to have created this friendship. And we share such a mutual passion for photography that it's great. So why don't you introduce yourself, you know, in terms of your journey, tell people about yourself, and then we'll get started with the wonderful discussion.
Sure. Obviously, my name is Susan Portnoy. I was previously formally a communications executive, and I did that for many, many, many years here in Manhattan. And then through a variety of different happenings, luck, fate, if you have it, I sort of fell into the photography and travel writing. And I did that on the side for a long time and really couldn't put my heart into it because I was working so hard previously. And so at one point, I just finally said, I only want to do this. I only want to do travel and photography. And I stopped doing PR and it's worked out well. I started a blog called The Insatiable Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
I've also written for a variety of other publications like Newsweek, Adventure.com,
Right.
US News and World Report, things like that. So keeps me busy.
Yeah, no, I have to tell you, I love the handle of your social media handle on all around Insatiable Traveler. I mean, what an unbelievable. How did you come up with that?
Well, I was trying to find something that spoke to the passion, but everyone uses the term passion. And I was actually just looking through a thesaurus one day, trying to figure out what would work. And insatiable really does say it. I could go on a million trips and I'll want to go on 1,000,001. So I think it works. The only issue sometimes is that people don't know how to spell it. So there you go.
You know, when I spelled it 3 times this week at least, I had to go back and give myself a spelling bee to make sure I didn't make any typos. So I hear you. But you know what? It's worth every character. It's and I don't mean character in the character sense, but character in the vocabulary sense. It's amazing, and I love it. I love it. It's just wonderful. So, as you mentioned, you come from a background as a VP of corporate communications at Condé Nast, a photographer and writer, now with the Insatiable Traveler blog, your own blog, and you've been a contributor to numerous online news and travel outlets. And just, I think, on Earth Day, just recently, you had this wonderful feature in Newsweek, of all places, such a great, institution that, and here you are with this great feature on Earth Day.
Yeah, I was really happy to do it and thrilled for the opportunity. Newsweek is doubling down on their culture and travel content. And so I've done a few pieces for them and have really enjoyed it. I have a great editor.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, Jonathan's here from the East Village. He says hello this morning. We pay a lot of attention to photographers and everybody out there, excuse me, not just photographers. But Frank Gallagher is here, and he's here with us. Bob Veritoni's here. Wonderful to see you, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us. And please, everybody, as you're watching this broadcast with Susan, make sure you hit the share button immediately and let all your friends and network and family know about this broadcast. Right now would be great. This way everybody can tune in. And let's see, stunning images, Jonathan says about your work already, Susan.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So one of the things we want to point out is that Susan has won many awards for her photography, and I'm excited to share the news that Susan is a 2020 Webby Awards honoree. Speak about that. That is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that being associated with the Webby Awards in any capacity is truly special. And yesterday I found out that I was an honoree for the category of personal blog and website, and I couldn't be happier. It's a real honor.
Okay, I'm going to quickly share a screen here, but first I'm going to actually bring up your website too. Please check all of Susan's handles on the ticker below. And we are going to get started by asking Susan, first of all, how did you get started in photography, Susan? Talk about your journey. I mean, what an amazing journey you've had.
It's interesting because I really started later in life, real later in life. Mm-hmm. And I never really thought about photography from any kind of artistic perspective. It was really more documentation. And I was on a trip to Machu Picchu. I was all by myself. It was my first solo trip. I was a little nervous about it. I was a little insecure that people would think that I'm, is she alone? Why is she alone? Anyways, I ended up just concentrating a lot on my camera because it gave me something to focus on and not think about the people around me. And when I came home, I actually liked some of the photos. And slowly over, a few years, my passion grew. And when I left Condé Nast, it gave me the opportunity to really dive in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell me real quick, we're going to show a few of these photos here. I mean, some of these I asked you to pick because I know you love them so much and I wanted you to zoom in on some of your favorites. Tell us about this wonderful photo here and how you ended up getting this. I love this image.
Sure. This is actually from San Miguel de Allende, and I was there this last October. And, it's a very bustling city, but it's also got so much history and cobblestone streets and the whole thing. And so there's always a lot of activity. I was standing across the street. There were cars whizzing by. And it took me a while, and I really had to have patience for it to hope that I could have everything sort of fall into place. And thankfully, this gentleman walked by in a way that worked for the photo and also kind of took up that empty space in the doorway.
No, it's really just a stunning photo. The colors, I love, the different workers on the ladders, and him walking by really made the photo. It really did, especially with the hat and everything else. So let's quickly go here to the next one, and let's have you talk about this one.
Sure. And so this is a little more abstract. I was in Antarctica this past December, and I fell in love with it, absolutely fell in love with it, and the king penguins. But I wanted to find a way to sort of photograph them in a little different way. I got all the kind of classic shots, right, but I was so, amazed and mesmerized by their feathers. And how perfectly detailed they are, and to bring those colors out, like they've been painted on, and there's just millions of them, which makes them waterproof, and so they have little waterproof suits on. But I just loved, from a graphic standpoint, when these two were together, how it all looked, and I'm really happy with the photo.
No, I tell you, I'm so envious in a good way that you have traveled so much and you bring all these beautiful parts of the world to us with your photography and your passion for traveling around the world and exploring different cultures and natural environments. It's just a joy to see every week, and every time you post photos, and hopefully after this COVID crisis hit, we'll all be able to see more from you, which I know we will. So tell us about this beauty right here.
So this is an image I took in the Great Bear Rainforest, which is in British Columbia, Canada. And I just loved it. I think a lot too, because I do have an emotional attachment to it. I loved the way the reflections were working off the water. I loved how the ripples in the water from the boat created that beautiful path that led up to, the mist in the mountains. I felt it really captured that sense of place that, certainly from a travel perspective, we always try to have photos that do that puts the viewer in that location. And so this was just one of my favorite days. I love moody, misty days.
Yeah, it reminds me of a time when a couple of years ago we went to Banff and Jasper in British Columbia, and oh my God, it was just absolutely gorgeous. And I stumbled upon a similar scene like this, not nearly as just perfect as this. I mean, you really capture those moments just so perfectly, and the balance in this photo is just gorgeous. That mist that's running up the center, going up towards the mountain peak there is just, spectacular. So bravo as usual.
Mother Nature was very kind to me that day.
She is, and she controls everything, doesn't she?
Oh, she sure does.
So we forget that sometimes. So, and here's another, what a sweet photo and so beautifully captured. Tell us about this image, Susan.
I was in northern Kenya, and I was basically just visiting a local manyatta, which is sort of a little village. And there were some, warriors out there and some girls, and they were dancing. And I love those photos of, beautiful African dance, traditional dance. But I loved this moment because one of the little girls came out and she was a little hesitant to come into the area where they were dancing, but she obviously wanted to be there. And I just loved just that little pat by the Samburu warrior. I love that little moment where he was like, "It's okay, come on in." I just thought that moment was precious.
Yeah, no, it is precious. I mean, when you're out there and you're in a zone, the way we all are when we're at a scene of or a wonderful part of the world like this, it's so easy to miss certain things, but that is the true difference between somebody who's been, dibbling and dabbling in photography. As the more they do, the better they get. The more travels they do, the better they get. And you, who's so experienced at capturing these wonderful moments. And we have many other people that are just commenting about your work, including Sally Ryan from California, who's a wonderful photographer and is going to be on the show next week, actually. So she's here. Kevin says, thanks for having us. Frank Gallagher says, Webby Award, very cool. I was a judge a few years ago. Competition, really tough. And so he knows. And Bimal is here from Cambridge, and Bimal is a wonderful photographer.
Thanks,
Yep, absolutely. So let me get back to, I'm going to stop the screen here for a second, and we are going to get back to the questions at hand. And we are going to scroll down here, and we are going to talk about, so Susan, the world has been, there's no other way to say it. It's been turned upside down right now. Our personal lives, our work lives, but you know what? If we're healthy, and we're sheltered in place and we're doing our part to make sure that we flatten the curve and save lives that way, then we're doing a great job, and we'll all get through this. So my question to you is, how has COVID-19 affected your work, Susan?
Tanked it, blew it up. Obviously travel is not something anyone's doing, and that's sort of the crux of it. I also do, writing for others, whether behind the scenes for, travel companies and things like that. So I've been able to do that, like the Newsweek piece last week, but overall, all the things that I had in the works just poof. Yeah. So you gotta laugh, you just gotta go with it.
No, I'm so sorry it's happened. That's why, well, and the reason I asked that question is that is the crux, that is the sticking point of why I sat back one day and I said, I'm going to create this Spin It Social Hour. I've been in this photography, I've been in photography my whole life. And having been a freelance photojournalist and also an editor at the Times Wire Service, I know photographers around the world, and I feel for my community. I feel for you, and I wanted to have you on so you could tell people about your journey and show your work and discuss it, so that when this alleviates a bit and goes away, hopefully, you'll have more exposure. So thank you for being here.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
So,
appreciate it.
So let me see here. Let's get to the next question. Yeah, I have everything laid out for you. So, what are your favorite subjects to work on as a photographer, Susan?
The two key would be sort of traditional cultures. I absolutely love that. I love time in Mongolia. I love time with the Samburu. I mean, there's plenty of pictures out there of people walking around Paris. I don't think I need to contribute. I really love to bring the ideas and cultures and meanings from different areas around the world that are different from mine. And that's a Himba woman that I met in Namibia. And yeah, so I love that. And I also love nature and wildlife. And I'm in heaven when all those interconnect, like in locations like Africa.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I saw this photo on your website, and I could sit there for like minutes on it, if not 30 minutes or more, and just study her face, study her eyes, and her face tells such a story. But yet, of course, we need to know more of this story. And the more you fill us in about some of these images, we're so thankful to have you here and to listen to these stories, because that is what it's all about. Great storytelling, written and visual.
This woman, her name was Crocodile, or that was actually more of a nickname. Mm-hmm. And if you look at her, I mean, she's gorgeous. I mean, she has a beautiful bone structure, incredibly gorgeous. And beautiful skin, beautiful skin. Mm-hmm. She has 13 children. And at the time that I met her, she was 43. So, they use this wonderful ochre mix that they use they think, uses to beautify them and also protect them from the sun. And I think we should get some here in the States because it's great.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, we really need to watch the sun. Too many people ignore it, and I've known many people who have suffered from other things from the sun exposure. So I think it's really important. It's a great health reminder. We're here to serve all needs, right, Susan?
Absolutely.
So let me get down here to the next question. And so, I found this quote on your site, and I just love it, where you say, adventure is a mindset. It could mean summiting Everest for some or trying a new food for another. For me, it's the desire and willingness to explore and invite the unexpected. Tell us a little about that.
Well, I think that when people hear about adventure travel, they immediately think sort of the hardcore end of it, which is phenomenal, but also not something that I am really doing. I'm not climbing Everest. I'm not doing those things. Adventure to me is anytime someone is willing to try something new, try to go to a different destination, go away from the chain hotels, stay in an in-home visit or a boutique hotel. Anything that brings you out of your norm, to me, is an adventure. And then as you layer different activities, whether you're a hiker or you love to ski, adventure really is completely subjective.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's something, excuse me, allergies. It's something that it's when I'm out and about traveling, now with family, Canada, many places in Canada. We have a thing for Canada. We love Canada. We've been all Canada's just gorgeous. Jasper and Banff was one of my favorite places ever. Have you ever done the whole drive from Jasper to Banff?
I have not. I was there when I was a little girl, and I just remember everything seeming so, I was awestruck, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a 5-hour drive normally. That took us about 10 hours because I stopped every 2 minutes to take a photo. So anyway.
I understand that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tell us a little about these photos we're looking at here. One of the things I love about you is that, you have everything going on with your websites, with your travel blog, which we'll put up there in a second. And I can hit slideshow and it's going through these wonderful photos. So you saved me a lot of work here, which is great. And tell us about your trip to Mongolia here while we're at it.
Well, it was an experience I'll never forget, and I would love to go again and explore more areas of it. I was specifically in the Western Mongolia in the Altai Mountains for 2 weeks. I was in that Russian van with other photographers, and we just drove like 500 miles in the total time, and we would camp at outside different family gurs. Right. And they were so gracious. They would, allow us to just be flies on the wall. But what was even more cool is that they invited us to a wedding and 2 parties.
Wow.
So, talk about being in an immersive cultural situation.
What an honor.
Was incredible. And the thing that's really great is the weddings. Do you know that all weddings in Mongolia always have horse racing and wrestling?
I did know that because I remember when Chang Li and some other photographers from the times that I edited for years went to Mongolia and other places. That I remember reading an article about that. Yeah, it was part of a feature. That's fascinating.
It's fantastic. I mean, quite frankly, they're much more fun than kind of our traditional weddings by far.
Right. Well, we have more viewers here. So Ronaldo is saying, stunning photos makes me want to travel right now.
Perfect.
That's it. You did it. Your job is done. I see you. Your job is done. So let's see here. Oh, we have my brother Sean Kaplan watching from Nashville.
All right, Sean.
Okay. How you doing there? Okay. We have Danielle is watching. Sorry, trying to open the app. Okay. I don't know which app you're talking about, Danielle. So try to put that in the comments and we'll try to help you out real quick. Let me scroll back up here. Wow, we have a lot of comments here. We have Rajneesh Bandari. Greetings from Kathmandu.
Whoa. Oh,
Wow. What?
I so want
Wow.
to.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajneesh.
I really want to go.
Okay, so that's one of your bucket list items, huh?
It's definitely one of my bucket lists.
Okay, well, you're going to have to connect with Rajneesh, and you need to connect with Donatella Lorch, who's a very good friend of mine. Donnie is a former foreign correspondent. Not former, she still does a lot of that, who's teaching at Georgetown right now. And Donnie lived in Nepal, and she was actually there during the big quake.
Wow.
And, yeah, with her son, and she reported from there. I'll tell that story another time about me and Donnie, but I helped her out a lot during that quake, and that's how we got to know each other even more. She's a beautiful person. So anyway, we have more here. Kirsten Alana, it's great to see.
Hey, babe.
Oh, her. Okay.
A good friend, great photographer. She's a great photographer.
It's great to see Susan featured. Thanks for doing this to support all of us in photography, Stefan. It is my honor, Kirsten. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Sharon Lynch, if money were no object, where would you go and what would you photograph?
Okay. Money were no object. On a world exploration, I'm kind of cheating, but I would want to stay out for 1 or 2 years and just really see as much of the world as I could. I have a fascination for polar regions. That's something that's only come around in the last couple of years. I also adore Africa, but one of the places that I'm thinking that I really want to go as well is South America. I haven't done it enough. And so places like Bolivia I want to go to. I want to go to Colombia. So, you know, there's always more places to go.
Frank says, agree. The photos are scratching my travel itch. You did it again.
And for two.
You've got people itching to travel. You've got everything going on. So, you know, it's true. You know, one of the things I'd love to get more around South America, many places. It's funny having a son. Our son, we travel around his school vacation time and things. So it seems that whenever we want to go to certain places around spring break, especially, it's always rainy season. So we haven't gotten to some of these places yet, but hopefully we will. So let's go through a few more comments here. Hi from Hilton Head. Okay.
Hey, Hilton Head. Beautiful place.
Yep. Susan Palmer Gutterman. Susan was one of the first photographers to influence me. Love her and her work.
Thank you. That is so fantastic.
I love these comments. It really. That's why I love. What's that, Susan? I'm so sorry.
I was just explaining that's so nice.
No, please. I'm so sorry. You know, one of the things that I love about this platform, StreamYard, is to be able to bring on all these comments and have you field them in real time. And that's the great thing about social media. So this is a platform that's so well designed. And I want to remind everybody that I'm showing your website and your blog URLs on the bottom here. So please check Susan out. Also her Twitter handle and her Instagram handle, which I'll have back up on there in a second. But please follow her on all her handles and everything. She has everything on her websites to go to. Carlos from Colombia, a very dear old friend of mine who's been a big part of my life. Colombia and Bolivia, you should come and see all of its beauty, he says.
I want to badly.
Yep. Carlos has been featured in Nat Geo in many places. He's documented some pretty heavy stuff out there and very important stuff. And he is a wonderful photojournalist. Ted Soki from Jonathan Alcorn. Okay. I don't know. He put Jonathan. Well, these are both friends, photographers, photojournalists from California saying hello.
Hi, guys.
Carlos says the Andes. And we have more and more comments. So let's get back to some of the questions now real quick that I have for you. And let's see here. So
I love the ticker. I just cut in. I love the ticker tape thing. I love that we're sort of like home CNN.
We are home breaking news.
Breaking news.
I'm Wolf Blitzer right now. Breaking news. Be sure to check out Susan's incredible site and blog and follow these and check out these URLs. Okay?
I love it. It's so cool.
So as I ask you this question, I'm going to go to another section of your site. What drives you, Susan, as a photographer, perfecting the craft, the search for that perfect picture and moment and technique? All of the above probably, but why don't you tackle that question?
That's without question that. I'm competitive with myself. I love looking at other people's works.
Mhm.
And when I see an amazing photograph, I have this photo envy. I used to have a section on my blog that was called Photos I Wish I Had Taken. And it's really to improve my skills, to share, this world with everybody, because I think that when people feel closer to a subject, especially when it comes to conservation, they tend to protect it. So whether it's, an environment, it's a culture, it's animals, all of that's woven together.
Right.
But also I just want to keep getting better if I can. And I hope I can. And I just learn from as many people as possible.
Mhm. No, it's true. We all keep learning, even as photographers. I mean, you just get better and better at what you do. My vision when I go out these days compared to what it used to be years ago, being such a street photographer in New York City and documenting the NYPD, has changed so much now, more than ever, that I live up in the burbs and I do so much nature photography, which of course you are a total pro at. And I study your photos, by the way.
You do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I study your photos. I mean, look at these images. I mean, they're just one after the other of just beautiful composition. The moods that you capture on all of the faces in the portraits you do. One of the things, of course, you speak about it, Susan, is when you're immersed in something like you were with this this culture in Mongolia and all the beautiful people of Mongolia that you were visiting. You become a fly on the wall. That's your goal, is to become a fly on the wall and to be in the background, be in the foreground, but the background, so to speak, and capture these moments and not be intrusive.
Right. And I think it's also being, and I'm trying to think of the right word, it's being a fly on the wall, but being a fly on the wall that the subjects are comfortable with.
Exactly.
That they can, drop their guard and just be themselves. Mm-hmm. And you also want to be there so that you can interact with each other, so you can get that special look in their eye, and you can, capture more of the true moment as opposed to sort of like a snapshot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm going to quickly do one more share screen here, and I'm going to bring on a different section here so we can talk about this. Now, one of the things that you're really well known for is also doing a lot of photography, a ton of it on wildlife. Speak to us about that. What is it like to be out there amongst the beauty of nature at its finest, and in the middle of all of it with these wonderful creatures all over?
Phenomenal, amazing, best thing on the planet. I mean, I love animals. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a vet. So being in the presence of an elephant or a lion in their habitat, in their home, is so powerful, so powerful. And I just love them, and I anthropomorphize them a great deal. So I always have little stories that I think are going on when I'm photographing them. And, if you haven't been on safari and it's something that you can do down the road, I think you'll find that anyone that who's been on safari, there's nothing else like it. And no matter what pretty adjectives and superlatives I would use, it's never going to capture it quite right.
Right. No, I have to tell you, I look at these and I've always wanted to go on a safari. And I hope to one day. I grew up in a village, in Greenwich Village, and I lived in right near and worked in a store that a gentleman named Dennis Pinto. Dennis, an old friend of mine. If he's ever watching, he and his family have a thing called Mikado Safaris. Have you ever heard of Mikado Safaris?
Of course.
Yeah.
They're very well known.
Dennis and his family own some Mikado safaris, and they're big advocates, of course, about taking care of, wildlife and nature and everything else, and conservation movements. So anyway, this is bringing back memories of Dennis and Mikado safaris. But tell us about some of these photos, I mean, that we're looking at here. I mean, what's in terms of all the wildlife you've seen, what's the one creature, one animal that you've seen, bird, tiger, whatever, that you've seen that really just make you said, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing this in front of my eyes?
God, I hate to be obnoxious and say all of them, but I love cats in general. So big cats, just mostly because I just want to run out there and squeeze the hell out of them and hug them. Elephants. I remember seeing an elephant for the first time and just thinking, God, they're so massive. There's so many of these animals that we've all seen on Nat Geo documentaries or the zoo or whatever.
Right.
But it's funny. It's like celebrities. It's like, you know them, but you really don't. And so that was my moment to, the safaris that I've been on, they just kill me. I mean, they're just amazing.
Nope, sorry about that. So this is one of my favorites, because the minute I saw this one day, I was like, wow, that is like one of the prize ultimate photos, where you have this amazing water buffalo, if I'm correct, and this bird that just landed on its nose. And tell us about this. And also, I read something about these birds and, when they land on these creatures. Right. So why don't you talk about this a bit? Because I find it a fascinating photo, and it was featured on Bing, right?
Was it Bing? Yep, it was. It was homepage. Yeah. So this was one of those very few moments where sort of all the things come together.
Right.
I was literally in the middle of a herd that sort of surrounded the vehicle, and oxpeckers and buffalo are, have a symbiotic relationship. So the buffalo are constantly drawing insects to their hides, and the oxpeckers are the ones that eat them off. So they have a very good relationship. And so there's oxpeckers on buffalo all the time. And sometimes you'll even find them like going up their nose. It's weird, but it's always very quick movements. And, often the buffalo are shaking their head, or they're, you can just finding that moment where light worked. And, when this particular oxpecker actually was in her nose.
What?
And when she crawled up and just did that little, red carpet over the shoulder thing, I was so happy to get it. And
wow.
They're a great relationship. And, sometimes the photography gods work with you.
Well, as we always say, right, timing is everything too. But you have to be really quick on your feet, also quick with your equipment.
Yeah.
And always be ready for the moment. As I always tell people, shoot and edit later. Especially in the age of digital photography. I mean, remember, in the days, we didn't have all these preview screens and everything else to know what we got. Most of the time we knew in our heads what we got, but we didn't see the actual moment until we went into the dark room and developed everything, and voila, the magic of classic photography. But now we're spoiled.
Right. And truthfully, I wasn't into photography during the film era. And I'm kind of bummed out about that, because those people like yourself who, really understood the craft and knew how to work with film, so they didn't need the LCD screen. Wow. And, that's a level of skill and competence and knowing how to be very specific and intentional. Right. on their shots, because they don't have a lot. They can't just blow 1,000 photos in 10 minutes.
That's right.
So I actually wish that I'd had time like that. And I know I could learn it now, and I probably should, but I wish I'd kind of was into photography younger?
Well, it's funny. I've only taken 2 courses in my lifetime, and both of them probably at one of our favorite places. I don't mean to presume that, but I'm sure it is ICP, the International Center for Photography. I took a course with a very famous street photographer in New York that everybody should check out, Richard Sandler. And then the other course was with my mentor, my true mentor, who opened my eyes up to documentation and documenting the NYPD and set me on the path, who was Alan. And you're going to love the last name of a photography teacher, Alan Frame.
He was born into it.
He was born into it. So, it's one of the things that I'm always thankful for. But, your skills are way up there in terms of what you do. And like I said, you bring the world to everybody and all of this beauty. And, when I look at this photo, I think, wow, this poor bird on this beautiful, magnificent beast's head and nose. And yet you're telling us how it all works together so beautifully. That makes all the difference,
Yep. There's a lot of that. The oxpeckers do that a lot with giraffes as well. And basically the giraffes and the buffalo are, little buffet tables of insects. It's a good relationship.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm going to bring up another one of my favorites here that I'd like you to tell us about, because I'm fascinated with your traveling to Mongolia and the Antarctic. So tell us about this. Once again, I know you told us a little about the trip, but tell us about these wrestlers in particular.
Sure. So in the Kazakh nomad culture, this was actually at a wedding. So here we are. Now, this was a wealthy Kazakh nomad, wealthy nomad. He had a lot of livestock, which is one of the things that determine wealth within that community. Mm-hmm. And he had 2 sons that were getting married. So it was a double wedding. And there's always wrestling, but sometimes you can't always get sort of like the premier wrestlers in the area. However, this gentleman could. So these guys are really well known within the community. They're, champions. And it was really fun to see. I love this because, the outfits are so intriguing and they have just such gorgeous faces. I really enjoyed watching them and being able to meet them.
Yeah, no, it's just a beautiful photo. And, you look at them, once again, you want to study the faces, the wrestler in the middle with his hands on his belly, and also the facial expression that he's making, and the other 2 so serious. Just a wonderful moment. As usual, bravo on all of that. So let's go to some of the comments again real quick, and let's check in with people who are watching. And Alice wants me to ask her about the location she shot the wildlife. Okay.
So I'm guessing, Alice, about the wildlife we just were showing. There are a variety of places. I've been to Kenya on multiple occasions. There's some from South Africa there. There's a couple from Namibia. Right. Botswana, of course, as well. And so it's a mix, a montage of different locations.
Wow. Alice says your photos are like a great painting. So that is beautiful. And Kirsten, once again, says, I began with film, developing my own in a darkroom and really enjoying the printing process. It's true, Susan Portnoy. It was a very different way of being a photographer, and I miss it often. So cost prohibitive now, even though it's becoming trendy again. And that's true. We can all get back in the darkroom and do stuff. There are places, and it's a wonderful thing to learn. So let's see here. So let's get back to our questions now. And let me scroll down here and let's ask. So,
photographers.
Of course. And let me bring you on full screen here to talk about that. So let me stop sharing the screen. And let me ask you, who are a few of the photographers that inspired you early on in your well-traveled career, Susan?
Well, I think from a travel photography perspective, Steve McCurry, I think that's sort of, everyone's travel photography guru.
Absolutely.
His colorful, beautiful images. The scenes that he captures was certainly something that immediately got my attention.
Right.
But I like to learn different things from different types of photographers. So
Right.
also Alex Webb blows me away with his street photography and the complexity, and talk about timing.
Right.
I would love to, I want to practice that more. That's one of the things that when I think about what I want to be better at is having more layers and complexity to my images. Also, I have like these photography crushes, and it can go from week to week, day to day. I always see new people and love their work. And a photographer named Rory Doyle, Rory Doyle. He's out of Mississippi. He's a photojournalist, and he just has an incredible eye. And he has this wonderful project that he's working on, a personal project that he's focusing and featuring the African-American cowboys in the South. And those photos just blow me away. So there's a lot of different people that contribute aspects of what I really am enamored of, and I kind of learn from them that way.
Yeah, no, I have a whole photography collection of books, probably well over 200 books now. I'm going to need another. I'm going to need an extension to my small, humble abode here to be able to just house the photography books. And my goal is to create a case one day for all of them, because as you know, they're such huge and different sizes that I don't know what to do. And I mean, literally, I'm just going to start real quick. This is one, for example. I mean, this is a monster. It's all panos of Thomas Mangelson's work, and it's just crazy. And I go to sales, book sales, and I collect that way because I find it like a treasure hunt. Yeah. So anyway, but a lot of people.
I have a variety of photo books as well, and I go through them. The big books are so great when you're looking at them, not so much when you're trying to find a place to put them.
Right.
But yeah, I tend to go through them before a trip too, just sort of to get my creative juices going, and thinking, in that mindset.
So let me ask you, what's one of the most memorable moments for you as a photographer that always stays with you to this day?
Well, one of them would be what we've kind of already touched on, was the that moment when everything came together with the buffalo.
Right.
I've had experiences that weren't specifically photographic, but came into that, having elephants charge the vehicle, and, that exhilaration and, mixed with fear that you have with these gorgeous, very big animals coming at you. I think that, well, you know what? Actually, I have one right. So as I mentioned, I have been kind of falling in love with polar regions. And a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of going to northern Manitoba for a polar bear walking safari at a place called Churchill Wild. And you're able to, you're not in one of those big tundra buggies. You're on the ground, eye level. And, there was one point where a very curious, non-threatening, thankfully, polar bear, yep, that's her, came within 30 feet. This is not that time. She was sort of curled up like a cat, which is why I liked it. But, to have a polar bear come that close and not feel panicked. I felt the guides would let me know if I should be panicked.
Right.
And, we were all very still. But she came really close, and
what beautiful.
It's very different than in Africa when you're in the safety of a Jeep.
That's right. That's right. Because, I mean, you have to trek across the ice to get these types of shots. And it's really, I'm sure you have to be very careful. You have to be very aware of your footing everywhere you're walking, of course. I've seen photos of you, with your gear on, actually, knee pads on, and all this stuff, you have to be prepared for the elements. I mean, talk to us about that. When you go to an environment like the Antarctic, I mean, how much prep do you do for a trip like that?
I did a lot. And I have to say, I want to do a shout out to Richard Ianson, who's a wonderful Australian photographer. And he's been before. So he was helpful in having me get a true sense, not what I think it was going to be like, but what really happens there. And he was the one who suggested that I get knee pads. And I am telling you, that was the coolest thing ever, because the beaches are all rock filled and the ice can be really hard. Right. And I had these very cushy knee pads, the kind that come like construction workers use. Right. It's extra padded. And so when I needed to just like drop down to get, as low as possible for some of, the penguins and things like that, I could do it like that. But it takes time to sort of think about what the kind of situations I'm going to be in. And that's really what I was asking him, is like, how close do you really get? And what's the, how does it work? Are you above? Can you go on, at eye level, blah, blah, blah. So each of those each of his answers sort of, spoke to what I would end up bringing. It was a lot though. Yeah. I brought a lot.
Well, we're talking about all the prep for that stuff. And then there's also, which I'm sure, is so important, is the mental prep, I mean, being in a zone when you're there, also being respectful of the environment that you're in, to be able to, trek all over the place. For instance, this photo here, this is Susan's wonderful blog called The Insatiable Traveler. And I'm going to go back up here and I am going to put the right here, the URLs here, so you guys can check it out. Please, once again, my name is Stefan Kaplan. I'm a social media and visual strategist, and this is the Spin It Social Hour. And I'm welcoming photographers from around the world each week to discuss their journey, so that as this COVID crisis subsides one day and hopefully goes away and we no longer have to think about it, we're praying for that, that these photographers can get back on track and get their work going again, because the industry has been hit so hard. So Susan, you're in an environment like this, and your blog is tell us about your blog, because one of the things that I want to quickly say is that it's so there's so many dimensions to it. You have stories, you have tips, you have gear. Tell us about how you created this wonderful Insatiable Traveler blog.
Sure. Well, a lot of credit goes to other bloggers in the biz who have been kind enough to lend me their time and answer questions. I have to say the blogging community, for the most part, are very helpful with each other. And so I wanted to have a mix of things that I knew I wanted, if I were looking at a blog. So, I prefer to write narrative travel stories. Google prefers 6 tips to do this and 7 tips to do that. So I kind of do a mix, hoping to, kind of cover all my bases. But I often have people asking about my gear, so it made sense to sort of put that down. That's kind of a classic. I really try to figure out, what is special about the place I'm at, or that, that moment, or something within the trip itself, and provide it here, like whether it's a cruise or an expedition cruise. I don't do the big boats, right. Or things completely on my own, and they all have their merits and can be amazing.
Right. No, I did one cruise in my whole life so far, and that was a family thing, because we took our son to Alaska. And we went to many places, and we got off the ship quite a bit and explored certain things. And my goal, hopefully, is to go one day and just get a Jeep and other things and really explore. But at his age, the cruise worked. So, but I want everybody to know about all these wonderful things, where they can reach you, how they can reach you, what they can get from your site to get better at photography, to learn more about travel. So, for instance, here they can sign up for a newsletter with you, correct?
They can sign up for a newsletter, and so as I put out content. I put together a newsletter and let people know. And I always add, some other great little things that, could hopefully I feel could be of value and that the readers will feel can be of value.
Right.
I also talk about in photography some things that other people, I haven't seen really a lot of other people talk about. So, the difference between workshops, a photography workshop and a photography tour, they're very different things and they have different expectations. I've talked about a few of the workshops that I've taken and sort of what I've gleaned from, the professional with whom I was, learning from him. And, I try to give those kinds of things like, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that you also highlight gear because people are always asking so many questions about what to buy and what's your favorite stuff. And there's no one better than someone such as yourself who's traveled so much to be able to highlight all of this gear, and resources too. Tell us about the resources section.
Well, and first, if I just go back to the gear real quick,
surely.
The gear are things that I have used.
Right.
And, so it's not this amazing, vast list because I haven't used everything on the planet or 45 different pieces of luggage. Why would I do that?
Right.
So that's important. I think that people know that, I've really used these things and I talk about whether it's camera gear or classic travel gear, what was good and bad about it, but also, why I use them for the things that I did.
Right.
In the resources are just, that. I mean, something, I kind of put that page together in hopes that people would bookmark it because it has airline cocktail, where my head's at. Airline contact information, which, not really needed right now. But it also talks about global entry and has, the links to places if you need a visa or not, how to update your passport or, completely apply for one. So there you go.
No, your blog is great. I love going to it because I'm always learning something, which is key. Always educating us about destinations and culture and gear and all this stuff out there. I mean, there's so much to learn. It's wonderful to have a resource and a pro such as yourself who has a great website set up, a great travel blog set up, has her Twitter handle, her Instagram handle. I mean, you've been in the social media game for quite a while too. And you do, so many great things, but having a great website with all this information is so key and that people can find you very easily. And that's the key too,
Yeah, definitely. Looking here at like Europe, my one city in Austria, I actually lived in Austria when I lived in Europe when I was younger before I got into photography. It's just funny to me, like Europe and then just Austria. Anyway, I digress.
Please.
Wait, what was your question again?
So I was talking about how wonderful it is that you have all these different sections set up on your site. It really wasn't a question. It was more just directed at the fact that it's fine. Listen, we're on the Spin It Social Hour and we're almost on the hour, but we're going to go 15 minutes over, which is I've allotted. We're not going to go do the Spin It Social Hour in 45 minutes this week. So, but it's really just directed at the wonderful way you have everything set up for everybody. And that's key because people have very short attention these days. We're all very busy and we want to get to what we want to get to half the time. So most of the time, and your site provides that,
Yeah. It's, I was trying to think about the hierarchy. This is a refreshed site. My first site didn't look like this and was probably a lot more complicated than it needed to be. Right. And, that was more from just being a novice. Right. And again, the other bloggers out there and people who knew SEO have offered a lot of their time and attention to help me get more focused.
Right. No, That's, that's exactly what, we wanted to hear. So what are your thoughts about photographers? This is one of the key things during this time right now that I ask everybody is that, what are your thoughts about what photographers can do to be more productive during this shelter in place time, Susan?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm trying to do is have a balance. This time sucks. Let's face it.
Yeah.
It sucks. And there's fear and there's anxiety and all that stuff. So I do allow myself to just be a little overwhelmed sometimes. And when I'm thinking about what the next work thing will be, how will we travel, since it's so integral to what I do. But the other thing is, okay, I let myself, have my moments, but then I really try to keep a schedule as much as possible. I'm not always successful. On a photography point of view, I'm always trying to, can I update my portfolio? Can I speak with another, colleague in the business and have them critique some of my images? Catherine Cardow, she's great. She has a lot of wonderful, ideas and things to say when you work with her. And so it's helpful for me to see how other people view my work and what works and what doesn't. So I'm trying that stuff. I'm looking at a lot of photography just to keep the creativity going. I have gone out and photographed in the city. I don't try to do it too much. I don't want to be part of the problem. But I have. And also now I'm playing with things in the house. What can I do that, that I need to work on Flash or, other things. I think it's just important to, have a list of things that you'd like to be better at, and see how many of those things you can sort of tweak from an at-home atmosphere.
Right. I mean, you're so correct, and there's so much to do at home, even though I know it gets a little stifling at times being indoors so much. Trust me, the walls are closing in on me too. But the thing is that we have to find ways to two things. One is to stay creative, and that's one way, is studying things online of other great photographers and drawing inspiration that way. And then also increasing our tech skills.
Yeah.
I mean, doing all this stuff like, me going forward with the Spin It Social Hour, which we're on right now. And, being able to increase my multimedia skills and bring photographers on from around the world to tell their story and show off all your wonderful work here. So for instance, we're on your Instagram page right now. And I have to tell you, it's just another great source of inspiration out of everything you do. It has so many great things on it. I mean, look at this. I mean, what a work of art. I would have this up on my wall in a heartbeat, and I probably will one day. And I love penguins, but you captured this moment just, oh my God. I mean, what is he leaning forward here? See?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I kind of loved about it, is that they were in pretty deep water. There was this stream coming through to the ocean, and they had been kind of playing in it, and, they were dirty. And I didn't know this, but they're pretty fastidious. And so they were going in and washing, whatever dirt they had. And this one was coming out, but because of the incline, it was doing this sort of, leaning forward thing that I just kind of dug. When I saw, the image later, I just feel like it looks a little different, and, I've done the classics as well, but I kind of loved, oh wait, go back a little.
Yeah, sure.
Humor. There's you go up one more.
Yeah.
It's the buffalo with the birds in their nose.
Oh, wow. Let's see. Okay. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that. That is wild. So those are actually the birds on.
Diving in.
Hold on. Let me see if I can blow that up a little more. Let me see if I can blow that up a little more here for everybody. Let me try. Okay, here we go. I'm doing my best. There we go. Look at that.
They are not.
I have to get rid of Kevin's question for a second, and let me also get rid of, this is the thing about doing all this is you have many different controls. I'm going to be getting an assistant, by the way. I'm grooming, and I've recruited an assistant because I realize this is quite the production.
Yep.
And I want to continue to bring the best of each photographer's work to the world every week, so that they know about you guys and tell your story. And one of the things is being able to manipulate and jump back and forth. So, wow, what a magnificent moment they're in. It snows.
It's not a great picture, but it's that moment, and it was how I was feeling that day. And like, if you read the thing, I was just sort of like, wouldn't that be weird if we walked down the street and birds like flew on our face and started picking our nose?
But what I love is that I love that you write crazy things you think about in quarantine.
Yep. And the other one was like that, the Times Square piece, like the one in the middle, not necessarily a phenomenal photo, but I was talking to friends and thinking about like how weird it is that I can see movies or TV shows that, I've seen before and were made years ago, but now when I see them and they're hugging each other, or the scene is a big crowd, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Like, how weird is that?
Yeah, no, I know. It's one of the things about where we're now looking at things so differently. And, I mean, I could just go through your photos for hours. And here's another beauty that I'm trying to blow it up, but I have to go to my manual.
That's great.
I'm trying to, there we go. Just give people a little view. I mean, this is a work of art. I mean, your photos from your trip to the Antarctic and other places are just works of art. So I really want to see a book from you one day.
Me too. I have to, like I said, I like to work with other photographers and see how they've worked it. I mean, I think everyone feels this way. It's like when it's your own work, I always feel like it could be better. So, I'll do a book when I get to here or get to there. I probably just have to jump in someday.
Yeah, I wonder who that is.
It's kind of fun. In the Day of the Dead, I had fun time. They are the makeup artists on the street. I have to say, did a good job. I don't really put myself in my Instagram.
Right.
To me, the travel is about what you see out there. I don't think people want to just see me in different locations.
Right.
So this was kind of unique that way, but still kind of.
My mom just came back from there recently, and she just loved it. I don't think she had her face painted though.
It's fun. It is fun. It's really fun. Good job.
It is. So let's see here. So we asked you that. Oh, so what else do you love? And I have all these questions categorized because I want to get to them all, and we're almost there. So what else do you love to do in life, Susan?
Other things that I love to do. I mean, I love hanging with friends, but typically in smaller groups. I love a good dinner party. I love, a dive bar with just a few friends and hanging out. I love great movies. I am a movie fiend, and so when I can see a good movie and get involved and emotionally into it, I love that. I'm writing more. It wasn't my first love, but I am more and more become attached to it and wanting to improve those skills as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, when you're traveling and then you come back and you have, if it's a campaign or maybe you're just doing an editorial, right, I would just end up being right here. Like I would only have maybe a week, 2 weeks in between. And, you need to edit photos, think about the stories, blah, 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 blah. And I'm kind of a hermit when I'm in New York. Mm. Like I kind of realized that when I wasn't freaking out about quarantine as much as everybody else. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm alone too much. Right. But yeah, I think, I tend to be kind of obsessive on stuff. So, I used to have a horse, and horseback riding was the obsession. I used to dance, and that was the obsession.
Okay.
And photography has just kind of been something I feel is going to be much more long-term.
Right. No, it is what drives you, so to speak. It is what drives you. So we're going through some of the other photos that you have here, and I just want to take a quick stroll for everybody through your.
Flashing through.
Well, I just want to give everybody.
I appreciate it. It's like, woo!
Rather than another slideshow, I figured we're on your Instagram page. Let's promote it a little. Let's make sure people see what's on there. And one of the things I want to quickly get to, if I can find it real quick, I wanted to have a tab, but one thing I learned doing this multimedia production is that you don't want to have too many tabs open because it gets a little overwhelming. So, but there's this wonderful segment that you have right here. So I had to find this. And
yeah. This is actually a video that our guide Jason Ransom put together, and what I'm doing there, it's called aqua gliding. And as you can see, I'm in a dry suit,
right.
and laying on this foam pad, and
right.
very slowly being dragged by a Zodiac, and it's up in Churchill as well, like polar bear land.
Right.
In the summer, they migrate, and we're talking like 60,000 of them come to the southern Hudson Bay and Churchill River area. And I was in the Churchill River there. And I talk about it. I have a story about it on my on the Insatiable Traveler. And it's amazing because they just come to you. I mean, it's like they're like dogs of the water, because they are more interested in you than I'm even of them. Like, they just come up and they get really close. You can't touch them,
right.
All of that. But this is something I did. And
wow, listen to that.
They're very vocal, which I loved.
Oh my, what a treat.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing experience.
Wow, that is just such a treat to give everybody a glimpse of that underwater like that. So tell us about underwater photography quickly, about a scene like that.
Well, I'll be honest, I am a novice, so
okay.
I am no Paul Nicklin. That was, what underwater, I use GoPro. It's easy, it's waterproof. I have the Hero 7, so I don't have to worry about a case. And for this kind of situation, for me, like, what makes them special here, yes, you can get a close-up of their face or things like that, but it's really, to me, their personalities.
Right.
You can see from the video, how curious they are and how interested and how they interact with each other. So in this case, honestly, I felt like video did it better, but I would not go on the underwater photography.
No, absolutely. This video, I mean, I'm sure everybody would love to just, we're going to play this one more time for everybody. Wow.
Yeah, they're incredibly vocal.
Wow. You just brought everybody, including myself, to such a wonderful moment. These are the types of things, especially during this crisis, to bring such talented photographers on, such as yourself, to give people some inspiration, and that wonderful word that I love to use, and I used in promoting your appearance this week, wanderlust. It's truly inspiring to have you on. One of the things I want to do as we begin to close here rapidly is ask you how do you feel that social media has helped your career, and what do you think you could do more of and do better with? Because you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, and do you, actually, you do all of it so well. What is it that you think you could do better?
Oh, I could do a lot better. First of all, in terms of that first part of your question, you work with businesses, whether it's a brand, a destination, in general,
Right.
the expectation now is that you will have a social media presence.
Right.
And so that in and of itself is that. Consistency is a huge thing, which I need to be better at. I'm good at the conversation, but I'm not as great as others going in and really going out there and commenting on other people's stuff. Even though I enjoy it, I just don't have the time.
Right.
So there's a lot of different things. And I think too, with the algorithms that the way they are, they can be very frustrating. To build up a following and not be able to have people see it. But it is important. You got to do it. And I've had some great opportunities to talk to readers on it. I was speaking to some readers who were in New Zealand, and we were in the quarantine, and they're like, hey, should we, have a Facebook chat? And so we did a video chat, and I really like that. And I like doing it with others. So I'm going to do more of that.
Well, that's the thing, right now with all the chats and the Zooms and the live streams and everything. I mean, it's becoming more and more truly interactive in real time with all this video and live streaming than ever before. And that's one of the joys of doing the Spin It Social Hour, is being able to interact with you in real time, bring on questions and everything. Rose Horowitz is watching. She says, interesting. Tim says, what an amazing video of those belugas, and just amazing. Have you ever had the chance to do any video or photography of manatees?
I haven't done manatees. I have done sea lions, which unbelievable, make me so happy. It was like the first time in years that I felt like a 5-year-old, playing with bubbles, like that kind of ecstatic, because they have so much personality and they come around you. And so those, and then sort of the dreamy majesty of whale sharks. I had that opportunity, and all those stories are actually on my site if you're interested. And there's some videos of those experiences as well. I love it. Like I would love to do humpbacks. I have friends who have swum with the humpbacks, and that looks ridiculously amazing.
Yeah, I'll tell you a secret. Well, not a secret. It's our family thing. Whenever we go anywhere, and every place we go to lately is all based on where we can see have the best whale watching.
I am, and that's one of the things, because I've enjoyed that in the Great Bear Rainforest. We had an amazing humpback experience where 3 in a pod just out of nowhere, like came up to our tender, and they're big, and they just were like, hi. I mean, like I could have touched them, didn't, but I could have. And they just swam around us, under us. It was if they'd been contracted to do a show. So that really got me going. And I'm hoping to do some really great whale watching in Quebec and the maritime area. They have so many different opportunities.
Yeah, well, we connected last year. I tried to catch you in Quebec, remember? We were there, and we were in Montreal, then Quebec, and then we went from Quebec to probably where you might be talking about. Maybe I'm wrong, but we took a drive way up north to a place called Tadoussac.
Tadoussac, yeah, no, that's where I want to go, and that is a place that I've written about from a more research perspective, and everything about it, small, wonderful, little small town feeling, amazing, amazing ability to see whales even from the shore. And one of the aspects that I'm trying to do whenever we can go back and travel is learn how some of the indigenous people used to go out and see whales, and so kind of getting a historical perspective as well. Right.
No, absolutely. One of the things that Tadoussac was just amazing, because, we said, you know what, let's go. We drove all the way there. We stayed in this beautiful little B&B, and the people there were just beautiful. I got to use some of my French for a bit but the difficult thing, oh my God, the difference between Quebecois and Parisian French is like really different. Yeah, it's like this big.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I would talk to certain people and I'd have to do triple takes on what they said, you know?
Yep.
But
Totally.
it's funny, they didn't have to do triple takes on what I said. So it is interesting that way, you know? I guess they're just more attuned to maybe a lot of people from France traveling there. So it's, you know, easier for them to hear the tone and everything else.
Right.
Anyway, so finally, one of the things I want to ask you when you're traveling is how do you, because this is a big thing, how do you make time to balance your work and getting it out there on social media?
I'm working on that as well. Like I said, I tend to be a bit of a hermit here.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I try to make time. I need to be even more consistent than I have been. And I've kind of let it go here a little bit too. I don't know that everybody wants to see me, you know, having an IG story hanging out in my house for the 400th day.
I gotcha.
You know, I kind of put things up when I think that they might be interesting or funny.
Right.
You know, I really try to schedule. I'm not always good at it. Sometimes staying up super late or getting up super early. It's not ideal in any sense of the word.
Right.
But you know, I when I come back from a trip, I'm so excited, so geeked out about it that makes it easier because I really in the mood to share.
Right. No, absolutely. You know, controlling social media is really something that's really important because we can all get caught up in it so much that, you know, we have to maintain focus on life, on social media, and balance it all. Balance is the key, me included, because my smartphone is in my hand so much.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's part of our lives, but the best we can do is everything in moderation. I'm trying to practice what I'm preaching right now. I'm failing miserably. But I'm doing my best, especially on the quarantine, trying to stay connected with the world at large. Yeah. But I think, you know, it's been wonderful, wonderful having you here. Let's remind everybody, as I'm showing everybody here, you have your handle right there on Instagram, The Insatiable Traveler, all spelled out. On Twitter, though, I want to find this real quick. On Twitter, it is something different, though.
Yeah, it's Insta-Trav. Right. Because Insatiable Traveler is a tad too long for Twitter.
I have it right here. So it's Insa Trav, INSA Trav on Twitter, Insatiable Traveler on Instagram. And then your websites, of course, we're going to put right here out. We have in Susan's blog at theinsatiabletraveler.com and Susan Portnoy photography.com. So I want everybody to remember this name. I want you to remember how you met her here and frame her image right now of her incredible presence here on this show. And we thank you for your time. And one of the things that I also want to do in closing, and you can stay on here for a second, is I'm going to quickly go, give me 1 second here, because I didn't want to get interrupted by notices and everything else. But I wanted to do this, and I'll do this with you online real quick.
What are you doing?
I'm so sorry.
No, I'm just like, now I'm, you know, intrigued.
Yeah, I'm going to somebody's page here because I wanted to bring this up, and I'm going to show right now after I screen share here. It's a lot of work goes into this, so we have to be able to monitor and moderate it all.
I apologize. It's all good.
No. This is StreamYard. So, and I'm bringing up a photo here. This is what I'm going to call. I wanted Susan to be on here with me for a second, being such a pro as everybody is.
Agreed.
I wanted to bring this up because this is a photo that caught my eye this week, and I'm going to prep this better in the future. I'm going to have, this is my photo highlight of the week that really caught my eye out of this crisis that's going on. And I wanted to talk for just a second about Stephanie Keith, who is the photographer. And Stephanie is an incredible photographer that's been documenting this COVID crisis here in New York. the first responders, being right out there on the front lines.
Yeah.
Stephanie, thank you for all your work. Thank you for all you're doing. And I wanted to quickly.
Great photo, Stephanie.
Yeah, I just wanted to enlarge this a bit. I mean, what grabs me about this photo is there's so many elements to it. There's the medics behind, whether they're nurses or medics, I'm sorry, with their gear on, with the stretcher. They're either going into or going out of a hospital or a morgue site, God help us. And there's the gentleman in the foreground with his mask on, and that tarp, that sort of silhouettes, you know, the whole background there, and it's just so powerful. I mean, what do you draw from this photo, Susan?
I think, like you said, it's very powerful. You do stop in your tracks. I think that veil, that tarp, really is sort of a metaphor for what we're all dealing with. The people, the viewer, and what's happening behind the scenes that a lot of people aren't seeing,
Right.
And what our healthcare workers are going through. So I think she really captured sort of all of that meaning.
Yeah, Stephanie Keith, everybody. That's Stephanie and Keith, Keith. Find her on Instagram. Find her all over social media. She's doing this incredible job and deserves much credit. She's one of the heroes too. You know, we talk about this, all the essential workers, all the reporters and journalists doing their work that are out there doing this day after day. And thank you so much for your being heroes and doing this. So Susan, thank you so much for being here. Once again, everybody, Susan Portnoy, and we wish you well and stay in touch. And I hope everybody follows you and keeps track of your amazing work. And I wish you well, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone who took their time out of their day. You could be doing something else, watching Netflix. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Susan. Take care now, okay? Okay, bye-bye. So everybody, I'm going to come on here for a second, solo, and thank you very much for watching the Spin It Social Hour this week. I want to quickly highlight next week's guest, and I am going to remove that from the stream, and I am going to go to Brand here, and I am going to tell you about Sally Ryan. Please follow Sally at Sally Ryan Photo and know that she is my next guest. Thursday, May 7th at 11 a.m. We will talk to Sally about her wonderful work and everything that she's doing. She has a great project that she's working on. I'm going to leave it so we can build up towards it, but you're going to really be interested in it. It's dealing with the COVID crisis, but also much of her other work and her journey. So you can learn more about her and all the photographers I'm bringing on every week. So that once again, that when this crisis alleviates, they are more out there and everybody knows about them, and they will get much work because they're doing incredible work their whole life, and we want to keep that going for them. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Once again, I'm going to quickly take this off and say goodbye. My name is Stefan Kaplan. Follow me at Spin It Social all over the place on Instagram, Twitter, and also check me out and connect with me on LinkedIn, please. And thank you for your time most of all. And the other thing, please take care, stay indoors, shelter in place, help everybody get through this. I know you are, and we all thank you for it. Take care. I will see everybody next week. Bye-bye.